even big, ambitious dreamers can be like, I think I'm here. This is a safe place to be. And for most people, it seems like, no, that's a really big dream. But you know when you're playing it safe, because we get scared. As leaders, we're scared. Even though we are more open to taking risks, doesn't mean that we don't have fear. And I actually think that entrepreneurs who've been in the game for a long time, that there is actually more fear and hesitation that comes up the longer you're in the game, because it almost feels like there's more to lose. What would the world look like if people felt like they mattered? Welcome to the Lead with Love podcast, exploring what it means to lead with love in business and life. I'm your host, Jada Selner, and in this show, I'll share meaningful conversations to help you, the creative, the entrepreneur, the world changer, reach more people, go after your dreams, and serve your community with love. I appreciate you joining me. Now, let's get cozy and start today's episode. Hey, today is going to be a solo conversation with yours truly, Jada Selner. And today I want to talk about how to stand in the fire of the unknown, the gap before your vision becomes a reality. Oftentimes, especially for me, I've been an entrepreneur for over 10 years now, and I'm a really, really big dreamer, and I have really big visions, and I, write a 3-year vision that I have written down. I record my voice and I listen to it during my morning routines. Also, one of my top strengths finders is futuristic and also ideation. And so I love ideas. I love dreams. I love vision and something to pull me forwards. And sometimes that can actually be a distraction for me that pulls me from the present moment. And from some, the distraction can be being stuck in the past and always being pulled backwards into what didn't work and what's not working versus like what's right in front of us. And so I know for me, I've made many pivots in my lifetime inside the companies that I've built, from having a brick and mortar business in Kauai, Little Sprouts Playhouse, where it was a Montessori inspired early childhood program. My husband, that's when he started teaching music, and our daughter was a toddler. I started that business when she was 18 months old. And, my husband and I ended up closing that business down, liquidating our assets, and moving from Kauai to my in-laws' place, where we lived there for 6 months in Northern California. And I was going to go back to school and go to USF. I actually had a scholarship and was already enrolled in classes and was even going to some trial classes. And, life presented other uncertain, unexpected moments that made me pick a different decision, make a different choice based on the new information that was presented to me, that I chose to lean into and prioritize my values of family and connection and safety. And so, I made a decision to not go to school. I was like on a 10-year path, like college, had over 60 plus college units. I actually don't have a college degree or business degree or anything like that. I studied, theater as a theater major at the Las Vegas Academy Performing Arts School in Vegas. And, I also studied some theater at Santa Monica College and some other community colleges, even in Kauai. Like, I'm just a lifelong learner. So even without a degree, I am a voracious learner that I just want to keep soaking up more knowledge. And, in that season of, okay, well, I'm not going to school, then what next? I ended up interning with my husband's aunt and learning about online marketing and email list and all of that, which inspired me to come up with a way that I could serve people and still have my daughter by my side, because that was the original intention in building the brick and mortar business in Kauai, was to have my daughter by my side to make a living and be there for my growing family. And that didn't go away. But also the entrepreneurial bug had been truly like, it happened, and I didn't want that to go away. So I've always been in this curiosity and creativity of identifying the intersection between entrepreneurship and having a family and having really big visions, ambitions, and dreams. But what do we do when we're in the transition period, when we know that where we want to go next is shifting, and we're still in this present reality, status quo, of where things just feel uncomfortable? Other words that people might say is like unaligned, or you're just feeling a dread to like move through your day and the body of work that you're doing, or even complete. Like, oh, I'm just complete with this chapter in my life. But there can be such a huge tension during that gap moment as you see in the future of where you want to go, what you aspire to, what you want to create, and then where you are in the current season of like, well, I don't like what I'm in, but I don't actually know how to get to this vision that I'm envisioning. And so that's what I want to talk about today. How do we stand in the fire of the unknown, of uncertainty, of when is the thing that I want actually going to happen? When is it going to become a reality? And I feel that that comes for me about every 2 to 3 years. It's like 2 years, I'm pretty clear. But by year 3, I'm like, it cannot go on this way any longer. And it's a growing pain. It's uncomfortable. It's almost like you're outgrowing something, outgrowing a certain season. And sometimes it doesn't mean outgrowing an entire company, right? It could be outgrowing a certain way of being, how you show up in your work, of like, oh, I'm just tired in the way that I am showing up, and I need to shift myself from the inside out. And it's actually has nothing to do about the external circumstances, or also needing to just shift like how you're doing something, how you're delivering something inside your company, or how you're leading your team. Like there's so many shifts of discomfort, like even in our bodies, just thinking about when we shift our bodies, it's because we're uncomfortable. We're like, ooh, I need to like move my body and sit up straight, or I need to lay down. It's like our body sends us these cues, these signals of like, this position I'm in right now is no longer comfortable and we need to move. And this also happens inside our businesses and even in our lives and our relationships with our partners, our children, our friends. Things just shift and something needs to change. And so when we get that clarity, that awareness of something needs to shift, something needs to change, or something is calling me forward, you feel great for a very short amount of time, right? Because you're like, clarity, this isn't working. I want something else. But then getting to that something else, that is where the true discomfort happens. It's also where the true growth happens. And growth is not comfortable. It hurts. Like when we think about our bodies, like stretching and into a position that your body's never been in before, you have to lean into the stretch and it's a little bit painful and you have to keep breathing just to move a little bit further. So that's what I look at, that the gray moments in our lives when we know where we want to go, kind of. And we're also still right where we are. And so how do we bridge that gap? And sometimes it's not even about bridging the gap. Sometimes it's like, what do we do? What are the tools, the resources, the people that we need during those moments of uncertainty, during the times when you are just standing in the fire, like, oh, it's hot and I need to get out of this kitchen, but I can't even get out. So it's like, what do we do in those moments? And I think that it definitely starts with having a vision, right? A vision for your business, a vision for your life. And I think that with that, when we have a vision, we have a map. we have a direction that we're moving towards. And I think that visions should be and can be fluid, that there is some flexibility in that, right? That we get to adjust and edit along the way, but at least we have a roadmap of like the direction that we're moving towards. And as we get more information, this is actually something that I do with my clients is, every 3 months, every quarter, every 90 days, we kind of revisit of like what's working, what's not working, and where is there room for improvement? And are there new ideas that we want to bring to the table? And is there something that we want to iterate, adjust, change based on the feedback that we're getting from ourselves, from our team, from the community and the customers that we serve? So I just believe that our work, especially as we build companies, is art to me. To me, it's an expression. It's a vehicle for me to express my highest values of love and connection and collaboration, creativity, a love for learning. All of those pieces really allow me to live that and choosing into the path of entrepreneurship, because I do believe that you are going to stand in the fire, and you're going to stand in the fire more than once. It is a lifelong journey. Choosing to be an entrepreneur, choosing to be a founder and leading a team and creating products and marketing them and sharing them with the world, all of that. And our world is changing, constantly changing. Like we have AI, artificial intelligence and technology is rapidly changing from, what we grew up with. And so jobs are going to shift and change. People's attention, we can see that our attention is a lot shorter than it was. So how do we breed and create this safe container for us to lean into innovation and inspiration while we're also in this place of feeling stuck, of feeling stagnant, of feeling sluggish and slow, and all those things that come up when we're like in the fire, like it's not moving fast enough. I know where I want to go and I'm not there yet. And I, had my parenting blog and then launched Simple Green Smoothies in 2012. And that turned into a full-fledged company with a traditionally published book and reaching hundreds of thousands of people across Instagram and Facebook and email list and website views and all of these external vanity metrics that allowed me to build and make a living for my family. And actually a year into building that company, my eyes were already shifting to another vision, another future. And so I think that is kind of the curse of being a visionary founder, is we have a lot of ideas and we like to experiment and try things on. And it would take me several years. I was in that company for 5 years until I was brave enough to make that bold leap of choosing, even when I knew that I wanted to do something else. And yet I didn't have the courage or the bravery to share that with my co-founder, my business partner, my friend, Jen Hansard. I wasn't ready to kind of make that leap. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into when we're sitting in the fire of indecision, right? Of like, which way do we go? Or like, but the thing is, you already know. So it's not true indecision as much as like just committing to the decision that you already know has been made in your heart. And it's just allowing all the other parts of you to catch up with your heart. And that's why this podcast is called Lead with Love, is making decisions from our heart, even when things don't make sense on paper. And I love this quote from Ira Glass, and I'll link to it in the show notes, but he calls it the gap. So Ira Glass is an American public radio personality. He's the host and producer of the radio and television show This American Life and many other programs through NPR. And I just love it so much. I definitely want you to watch, if you have not watched it before, to watch the video that was created along with this. But it's just a good reminder, because when we are making shifts and transitions in our lives and our businesses, it's going to be uncomfortable, and there's going to be this gap of the unknown, of knowing what you want and then it not existing quite yet. So let me read this quote to you by Ira Glass. Nobody tells this to people who are beginners. I wish someone told me. All of us who do creative work, we get into it because we have good taste. But there is this gap. For the first couple years, you make stuff. It's just not that good. It's trying to be good. It has potential, but it's not. But your taste, the thing that got you into the game, is still killer. And your taste is why your work disappoints you. A lot of people never get past this phase. They quit. Most people I know who do interesting creative work went through years of this. We know our work doesn't have this special thing that we want it to have. We all go through this. And if you are just starting out or you are still in this phase, you gotta know it's normal. And the most important thing you can do is do a lot of work. Put yourself on a deadline so that every week you will finish one story. It is only by going through a volume of work that you will close that gap and your work will be as good as your ambitions. And I took longer to figure out how to do this than anyone I've ever met. It's gonna take a while. It's normal to take a while. You've just gotta fight your way through. So that is Ira Glass quoted. And I just love that part of it is only by going through a volume of work that you will close that gap and your work will be as good as your ambitions. So as ambitious, big dreaming, mission-driven entrepreneurs, it's going to take a while for us to catch up to the actual vision. And so we have to give ourselves that space. What I do with my clients is, we kind of move through these 3 phases, whether on retreat or in my client work or on VIP days. There's 3: ideation, integration, implementation. And the ideation is about the dreaming and the coming up with the ideas and just giving yourself space to think and dream. And then we can move into the integration, which is looking at our personal lives and our companies that we're building and finding the sweet spot of a plan that works where we are able to move our company forward and also support our lives, that we actually have a life outside of work instead of vice versa, where we have a business that we have to cram our lives into. So we want our businesses to serve our lives, to serve our community and the customers in a way that is sustainable and doesn't burn us out year after year, which is why I'm such a big advocate of, moving projects fast, but moving and growing in a slow, strategic, sustainable way so that you withstand the storms that will come, right? Like us sitting in that fire. And then after we integrate and have a plan of action of where we want to go, then we go into action, and that's implementation, being able to take imperfect action on ideas worth implementing. So we move through these cycles on a day-to-day basis, a weekly basis, monthly, quarterly, annually. You'll notice that you're constantly flowing between those stages of thinking and dreaming, strategizing and planning, and then executing and doing and putting work out in the world. And the biggest thing is you don't want to get stuck in one phase for too long. We can get stuck at drawing at the whiteboard and just, constantly thinking of ideas, or we've got a plan, but we're actually not moving it forward. So we really have to think about those pieces. So as we're thinking about how to stand in the fire when there is the uncertainty, I just want to share a couple of things that have worked really well with me. And the biggest thing is that I just see it's like a 2 to 3 year window of where you need the type of things that I'm sharing with you. I've just noticed that for me, it's like an idea is planted and it takes about 2 to 3 years until it actually I'm realizing that dream. So just know that things take time. So we have to be patient with ourselves. And that's why I always say, don't put a timeline on your dreams. Put a timeline on your actions, on your projects, deliverables, but don't put a timeline on your dreams. They're so big and possibility is endless. So we don't want to stop ourselves or cut ourselves short because we don't hit a goal in a certain time. And also we don't have control of the external metrics. We can definitely shoot for them, but what happens when you don't hit a goal? We get frustrated and then we lower our ambition. And I don't want you to lower your ambition. I want you to extend the timeline. So there are a couple of core pieces for me on this. One, just giving yourself that extended timeline that when you're sitting in the fire, you're going to be sitting in it for a while. The gap, the uncertainty, the unknown, as Ira Glass said, right? Like a couple of years, you're going to have to put a lot of work in. So we don't just get to snap our fingers and the work is there. And if we can learn to enjoy the process of getting to the dream, like enjoying the view. I remember my coach, Jonathan Mead, he had shared with me several years ago about like getting to the island, right? And we have our sets, like imagining you're in a boat and you want to get to the island and the promised land is the island. And so we're just like rushing and sweating and like killing ourselves, like, rowing the boat as fast as we can to get to the island. And then we're exhausted when we get there. But what if we allowed ourselves to enjoy the journey to getting to that island? So imagine if you were in a boat and then you were just pausing and looking around and taking it in and, oh my gosh, there's a shark or whatever it is, right? Like little obstacles or things that might pop up on your way there. Or, oh, look at those dolphins, like, swimming by, like that there's going to be joy. There's going to be obstacles. There's going to be storms. There's going to be sunshine, all of that. But to really just take in the moment of getting there and really taking that in moment by moment, because that's where I feel you find your flow state, where your creativity is enlivened. It's like, ooh, I know where I'm going and I'm present. I'm right here in this moment. And how can I show up with my whole self in this moment? And that's where we start to truly enjoy our life and the companies that we're building. So a couple of pieces for me, community is a huge one. So really having a community of people when you are standing in the fire, in that gap, in the unknown, having a community of people, and I would say peers, to lean on when ish hits the fan. There is something so powerful about having people that you can call and share not only the highs, but also the lows. Because I think as founders and companies, as leaders, right, there is a certain level of boundaries that we have to have with certain people to make them feel safe. I think we can definitely be super vulnerable and transparent in our leadership, but there's some things that like not everyone needs to know. Like as a parent, I have boundaries with my daughter of like, I don't think this is a good time for her to know about this. And so I'll wait. But based on what she needs, here's the information that I can share with her right now. And so being able to have a community to lean on where they can hold up mirrors to you in your darkest, lowest moments to remind you of how amazing you are. Because sometimes we forget. I have these like Eeyore moments where I'm like texting giffies of Eeyore to my friends. I'm like, I'm having an Eeyore moment. I'm just feeling sad or frustrated or confused or like I have no value to give. And I know that's not true, but there's just the moments and seasons where we just want to throw it all away. We just want to throw in the towel. I'm done. This is too much. Right. And so it's like being able to also honor your capacity, but having a community of people to lean on who are in a similar season cycle as you is super, super helpful. People who can relate with you, who can have empathy and compassion and can also cheer you on and encourage you and just remind you how awesome you are. So I was one of those girls growing up where I was like, oh, I can't be friends with girls. If I had a boyfriend, then it was all in on that. And I've really shifted that since I've become an entrepreneur, because I actually think you can't be an entrepreneur without community. I think it's such an important piece because it's such a rare body of work. The way that we do work and the way that our brains are constantly always thinking and on, it's so different than someone who might be working for a company. There's just a lot more responsibility, we're wearing all the hats. And so it's just nice to relate to someone who thinks the way that you think and can relate to financial pieces. Like you don't get a consistent paycheck, like all of those things. You have to pay taxes and, you're investing differently. So it's just nice to have a community that you can lean on where you can talk about team hiring and firing and all of those pieces. We just really, really need people that are on that same level of us and also have that same level of ambition where anything is possible, because I don't know about you, but I know that can become a stuck point in your ambition if everyone around you isn't thinking and dreaming big. So when you have that type of expansive energy and ideas, you want to surround yourself with others who are doing the same and who are putting themselves on the line and taking risks and sometimes not taking income home to feed your team and take care of your customers. Just being able to be surrounded by community of people who get you. I think that piece when you are in the fire, is so important. And I am so thankful that I have taken the time to cultivate and really nurture friendships, real friendships where I have true lifelines to lean on to can we meet, for coffee to catch up and connect, talking about marriage and parenting. I feel like I have a solid group of women that I can lean on and several different groups that I can lean on for a one-on-one conversation, for a Voxer, throwing up the bat signal, I need help. So I actually recorded a whole conversation about how to create those deeper friendships, more meaningful friendships as you're on the path of entrepreneurship and leadership and creativity. So I will link to that episode in the show notes as well. So number one, having a community when you are standing in the fire is just so helpful. The second piece is curiosity. And when you are in the fire, you're also in this season of transition of, I don't love everything that's happening now, and I know there's something else that I want. So starting to get curious about what are the things that are working that you want more of, and actually documenting that is so helpful. And then what are the things that are draining that are not working? Documenting that is super helpful too. There's such power in writing things down and getting it out of your head to acknowledge when things are working or not working. And that's why I do this, in my quarterly planning sessions with my clients, is that we pause and reflect on what worked, what didn't, and what might we do differently next time. We can do that for our own lives too. So start to look at, getting really curious about your company and about your personal life and document those things. And when things are going really good, document that too. So recently I actually wrote down, I had a dream week, 7 days in a row of Monday through Sunday. I was that was a really awesome week. And, I told a couple of my girlfriends when I was celebrating my wins, and I was I need to write this down so that I don't forget. How can I create more moments like this when I know that this fueled me, that this gave me energy? And so taking a moment to write those things down, and I'm even going to look at my notes right now of what I wrote. So when I documented getting curious about what's working, what's not, I wrote Dream Week, October 21st to October 28th. And some of the things that I said worked really well was I was doing my daily morning routine, which I'll share with you in a moment, because that is something that helps you when you're standing in the fire and uncertain. But during that time, I had spent so much time, I had family days. We went to a pumpkin patch with friends. It was my daughter's first homeschool field trip, which was so much fun. We had, a healthy picnic sitting in the sun. We picked pumpkins. We listened to live music, and then followed by a 90-minute massage, which I get monthly. It was so nice. I had really inspiring team meeting with my amazing right hand and just getting clear on, the business and the offers for 2020. I did an office hours call with my clients. I was creating content that was valuable for other people's audiences. I also did a co-coaching day with one of my friends, again, having that community to lean on with my friend, Nikki Elledge Brown, who is so brilliant and smart. And she dreams and doodles on whiteboards, and I love it so much. So we actually gave each other co-coaching sessions, which was so much fun. I got to talk to inspiring clients. Also, I went to my hip line dance class with my favorite teacher, Nadia. If you're ever in Oakland and you identify as woman, then check out Hipline, myhipline.com. We just shake our booties to Beyonce and all good music that just brings me so much joy. And I had a couple of my friends, Tracy and Jennifer, join me for that. I went on a sunset hike with my friend Kat and the doggies, which was so great and fun. I had amazing one-on-one calls with my coaching clients, even had some early morning sexy time, handled some stuff like tax stuff, had a beautiful long lunch with my girlfriends at one of my favorite restaurants, True Food Kitchen, went shopping and went to Anthropologie, which, just so y'all know, I live and breathe and wear all things Anthropologie. But surprisingly, after my lunch with my girlfriends, there was a 25% off everything sale for Anthropologie members. And I just got really cute clothes for the fall. And then my husband and we went on a double date with friends to go see Tom York, who's the lead singer of Radiohead, and got to watch him and his band at the Greek under the stars, and followed by late night tacos and carne asada fries. And then that was my week. And then the weekend was amazing. I had a slow morning. I took my daughter shopping. We went to the bookstore to get a birthday gift for her friends. Dropped my daughter off at a birthday party and had a girls' night in at my place where we watched When Harry Met Sally and Forgetting Sarah Marshall. And then we played my favorite card game, Dutch Blitz, till 2:30 in the morning. I love board games so much. And then Sunday, I ended up, going to my friend Julie, her baby blessing and shower. And on my drive there, because it was in wine country, I talked to my mom. And then on my ride home, I talked to my friend Amy, and it was just so great. So I wrote down, I really just documented what was so great about the week. And it was because I was doing things new that I'd never done before with my family. I was surrounded by others, humans in real life, getting to have a date night, connecting with my girlfriends virtually and in person. I felt like I had a lot of sensory sensations, from smell, touch, feel, taste, sight, hear, all of that. It just felt like I was really awakening my senses in all the different things that I did, having valuable, insightful conversations with clients. Just felt like I was being of value and being of service, and also felt like I was just able to listen to music. So it was just trying to highlight the things of what worked about that week. And then I also wrote what was missing, because even having a dream week, I was the work that I love to do the most is leading in-person retreats and workshops. And so it just had me kind of brainstorm in my notebook and my journal of what would it look like to have more in-person experiences in my company and how I deliver services. So that was just a highlight for me to see, here's what's missing. Also, what was missing was writing my book and creating, I'm working on a journal, but I didn't really create content for my own body of work. I was creating content to contribute to other people's audiences and their offers. And so that was just something to notice. So the second piece about curiosity is documenting what's working and what's not working in your life and in your business. And I think that piece is really important. So we talked about having community. We talked about curiosity and documenting those experiences. And the last piece I would say is having a coach in your corner. This is something that, I started investing in. Let's see. I definitely didn't have a coach in my brick and mortar business. We were just flying by the seat of our pants and trying to figure it out, which is, we ended up closing the business. I think if I had someone to talk about what was going on, what was working, what was not, to make those shifts, maybe we would have made different ideas, but we just got to this pain point where it's like, oh, something needs to change. Something needs to be different. And so that was all I knew. But by 2013 is when I started investing in business coaches and life coaches and, just honoring my personal well-being, because I just believe there's a whole person behind every business. So having someone who is in your corner and is just in your corner, there's something about having this fair exchange of investing in someone to just show up for you, where you don't have to reciprocate and show up for them too. So my friend Nikki and I talked about this because we are surrounded by brilliant, smart, entrepreneurial women who have amazing multiple 7-figure, 8-figure businesses. And we're like, oh, we could lean on them at any time to ask them a question. But what we realize is there's something in this like fair exchange. And sometimes it's like, if you give, there's this law of reciprocity where if you receive, you want to give back. And as women, sometimes we can also overgive without receiving. And I know for me, I struggle asking for help. So it's much easier for me to pay someone to be there for me when I need them and not feel like a burden, not feel like I'm letting anybody down or feeling like I owe them. Like anytime I coach, with my girlfriends, if we hop on a quick call and I'm like, oh, I need help with this thing. Can we connect? I'm like, sure. And they show up for me fully, giving me like an hour of their time or brainstorming and strategizing. And always at the end of the call, like I don't feel complete. I'm like, oh, so how can I help you? And I just feel this like need that I like have to coach them back or support them in some way, which is great that we are givers and that we want to help people. But there's sometimes, especially as busy founders, that we just need someone who is our lifeline and we don't owe them anything except for just paying that bill. There's something so energetically alleviating to like have that person in your corner. And, when I was in a big transition, my life coach, Rebecca McLaughlin, like I had a coach that I shared with my business partner and we mediated and we strategized and all of those pieces. But I was like, I just need someone who's in my corner that isn't seeing both sides, which is great to have. You need that mediation. But I just wanted someone who could like advocate for my strength and to like rebuild my confidence and connect to myself. And so it really helps to have that. Like my husband and I, we watch UFC, Ultimate Fighting Championship, like MMA, Jiu-Jitsu. It's basically mixed martial arts, MMA. That's what that stands for. I used to never watch these fights. And now I'm so fascinated because I can see the parallels in entrepreneurship of just getting in the ring and like putting yourself on the line, and like there's going to be one winner and one loser, and how those people just keep coming back. But I used to be like, I'm a lover, not a fighter. And now I'm like so into it. But they have their rounds, 3 to 5 rounds, and they have a coach. I mean, they actually have several coaches in their corner in between those rounds. And in that time, that's their time to take a break, to take a breath, to take a sip of water, to rest, to get that pep talk, to strategize, where they're kind of telling you like, hey, here's what we see. You're on the plan, stick to the plan that we talked about. Or like, oh, hey, that person is bringing something new in that we didn't expect. So we actually have to adjust. So there's something helpful about having a coach in your corner who's on the outside looking in and reminding you to stay within, to make those decisions from the inside out instead of having all the decisions come from an external place. So I just think there's so much power. Like I'm always in a mastermind, paid mastermind, coaches, paid coaches, friends, peers, mastermind, community to lean on, but just having the people in your corner where you don't owe them anything and can just like get what you need and get back into the ring, into the fight, into the game. I think that piece is super helpful when you are standing in the fire. You want that. So just a little recap: how to stand in the fire of the unknown before your vision becomes a reality, when it feels super murky, it feels messy, it feels gray, or like in between stages. Lean on a community. Find your people who can support you, who are on the same path and journey as you. Also, lean into your curiosity of like, what is working, what's not working, and document it. And then finally, having a coach in your corner who is there just to hold that space, that safe container for you, and to remind you of how awesome you are. And also to hold a bigger vision for you, because sometimes we can get stuck. Even big, ambitious dreamers can be like, I think I'm here. This is a safe place to be. And for most people, it seems like, no, that's a really big dream. But you know when you're playing it safe, because we get scared. As leaders, we're scared. Even though we are more open to taking risks, doesn't mean that we don't have fear. And I actually think that entrepreneurs who've been in the game for a long time, that there is actually more fear and hesitation that comes up the longer you're in the game, because it almost feels like there's more to lose, or like you should already know that you like, I've been doing this long enough, I should already know that, but you don't. Like, this is a lifelong learning journey. And so we really have to have that in place. And then the final one, I said that I would share my morning routine with you before we wrap up, and that is consistency. So when you are in the fire and there's a lot of uncertainty, you actually need anchors of consistency in your life to ground you, because everything feels so unpredictable. Maybe revenue feels unstable. Maybe a relationship is a little bit rocky. Maybe the market is shifting and changing, right? Like an economy crashing or different things. Like, there can be so much instability in our lives and what we create and how we grow companies, that we need some stability and consistency and focus in our lives. And so I would say consistency in habits or rituals, something that you repeat, and it doesn't have to be forever, for always. So, a lot of people, say morning routine, like every day, don't stop, won't stop. And I'm more of a like in and out morning routine person. And when I'm in a season of like, I'm in the fire, or I need extra strength and focus and stability and something that is constant, where I feel like I'm in control of it because everything outside of that window feels out of control, it's a great way to kind of create that habit of carving out some personal time for you. And something that my coach, Rebecca, invited me to do was like turning down the volume of others so that I can hear my own voice, and carving out time in the morning. And because I'm an early riser, this works really well for me, but I can fill in those 2 to 3 hours I'm up before the rest of my family with garbage, garbage like my phone, which has Facebook and Instagram and Slack, and my team is like 3 hours ahead of me. And so I can get caught in a reactionary mode, or I can get in quote unquote research mode, because as entrepreneurs, we love to research and learn. And so we can really create some excuses around why we do what we do, of like, oh, I'll be done earlier with my work if I just get into this now. And then we lead our days in such a reactionary space, and we really want to lead them with intention. And that's what allows us to have that focus. So right now I'm in a season of consistency with my morning routine. What I did, something that you can do on social media, is you can mute people that you follow. So you don't need to unfollow them if you still love them, but maybe you want to create some space for innovation and creativity, and to hear your own voice, and to look at ideas outside of your industry. Just mute people. So if you go on Instagram, like, you can just click on the people that you follow and just go down anyone who might be triggering you or might make you question your model or anything like that. Just click on their profile name and then you'll be able to mute them. You don't need to block them. You don't need to unfollow them, but just mute them for a season so that you can have the space to hear your own voice. And if there's any apps that you feel like you've had, you're in the habit of constantly pressing and checking. Like I have a real good system with like Voxer, text, mail, Instagram, Facebook, Slack. Like I have a good rotation between anything new here. So one, turning off your notifications so you don't hear the noises, and also turning off that little number that stands on top so you don't see unfinished business. And then you can either move the apps or delete them. Recently, I deleted Facebook. So I only check when I am on my desktop, and I have news feed eradicate. So I actually don't even see any feed. So they can't suggest any like, watch this video and then that video and then this article. I can just get in, respond to my community, my clients that I serve in there, and then get out. So just being able to mute some of those noises is super helpful. Also creating space to connect with others and get outside, like outdoors in nature, even if it's cold, put on that coat, listen to a good Audible book, whatever you got to do, but just like getting into nature and just seeing the world, because we can also get really stuck behind our screens in our work that we do. So the last bit, I will share my morning routine with you. I have like the epic morning routine, that's like about 65 minutes long. And then I have like a short and sweet one where I just take small pieces of that when either I'm getting my day started late or I'm traveling, but when I'm in a season of focus and I have the consistency of my morning ritual. I usually wake up between 5 and 6 a.m. It'll probably start getting later as we get closer, deeper into fall and winter, as it starts to get lighter later. But right when I wake up, I get some type of warm water, whether it's tea, lemon water, but something warm. I light my candle, an Anthropology candle, and I start to tidy my living room space. So I close. My daughter sleeps with her door open, but I close it in the morning when I wake up. So I don't feel like I'm making too much noise. So I close my family's, everyone's doors. And then I just have dim lights on and a candle. And I just clean the space that I'm going to be doing my ritual. Now, some people could clean the night before, but I am more of a morning person. And at night, I just want to go to sleep like as soon as possible. So I do my tidying in the morning because that's when I have the most energy, and it feels like a ritual in itself just to like clear the space in the morning. And then I grab my 5-minute journal and I write 3 things that I'm grateful for, and, things that would make today amazing, and then some affirmations. And then there's a nighttime version, but I write that in the morning. So what are like some amazing things that happened, and what might you do different? Like, how could you make the next day better? So that takes me, 5 minutes or less, sometimes 3 minutes to just do those pieces. And then I journal. And I just write the date at the top. I have a notebook. That's my business notebook. It's my journal notebook. It's everything. I just like fill up journals like one at a time instead of kind of separating. It's just my go-to journal. And that's where I'm checking in with myself emotionally. If I'm celebratory about anything, or I'm feeling anxious or sad or frustrated or, scared, that's my time to just kind of talk out what's happening inside my thoughts onto page. And then I use my Insight Timer app and I meditate for 10 minutes. I have experimented with guided meditations. For some people that works really well. I notice me just like keep connecting to my breath and just like emptying and enjoying the silence of the morning really is the best way for me to connect to my breath. But I will experiment with some guided meditations, but usually about 10 minutes or less. And sometimes I've used the Tapping Solution app, which is really fun to play with. So that's kind of like my meditation time. And then I have a moment of like stretching, walking, dancing for 5 minutes. So I use my Sworkit app where I can set just 5 minutes, whether it's yoga stretching or, high intensity stretching, whatever it is, just to get me in my body. Or sometimes I just listen to a song, have my headphones on and I just dance to a song, 1 or 2 songs to just get in my body. And then I either read my written 3-year vision or I have a recorded version of it, which is 10 minutes long, and I listen to it. And sometimes I can listen to that while I am cleaning. And then the last thing is reading. And so I'll either read a physical book, like this morning I was reading a physical book, or I'll listen to a book. And sometimes I like to kind of combo the movement and the reading by going for a walk outside and listening to a book on Audible while I'm walking. So that's how I can kind of shorten my routine. And then I kind of just brain dump for the day of like looking at my calendar on my phone, looking at my to-do list that I have written down, looking kind of just cross-referencing like what's my focus for today. So that will usually take me about 65 minutes. Like it's like 5 to 10 minutes for each piece of those pieces. And then I get ready. I hop in the shower, I get dressed, I get my family breakfast, and then I'm off to my office. Or sometimes, I rent an office outside of my home, or sometimes I work from home too. So it just depends. If I'm doing recording, like today, I'm in my office, I'll go to my office, or if I don't have any recording or calls, I'll go to a coffee shop, or I'll just work from home in my jammies. So that is my morning ritual when I'm going all in. And the abbreviated version, like the essentials, is like drink some water, meditate for 5 minutes with my Insight Timer app, and the 5-minute journal. So that will take me like 10, 15 minutes max. So you can always have a shortened, abbreviated version of that. So ultimate recap, how to stand in the fire of the unknown before your vision becomes a reality. Have your community, get curious about your life of what's working, what's not, have a coach in your corner, and create some type of consistent habit or ritual where you feel in control of, even though everything around you feels like you don't have control of, which you don't. Feels very uncertain and unexpected things are going to arise, that can really root and ground you. And, before I actually launched Simple Green Smoothies, my consistent habit or ritual was green smoothies. I didn't know Simple Green Smoothies was going to become a business. I had a parenting blog, and it was the green smoothies, just the consistency of blending one green smoothie a day for me and my family. And this was the time when I was living in my in-laws' house. There was 10 of us in a house for 6 months. And I felt like I wasn't in control of my life. And like, how am I going to make an income? I closed down my brick and mortar business. Now I'm living with my in-laws and just feeling really confused. And like my confidence was really shaken during that season. And I felt like there was a lot of unhealthy food in the house. And I was like, I have no control. I have no control of what my daughter's going to eat or all these pieces. And it was just like, it just wasn't true. And so when I shifted to drinking that one green smoothie a day, and thank you to my husband's aunt, Auntie Tootie, she introduced me to green smoothies and also introduced me to building a business online that I am so thankful for. But like that green smoothie, I had no idea that small, tiny habit, that morning ritual would make so many shifts in my life. So when you are standing in the fire in that messy middle, find that consistent ritual to anchor you while there is so much uncertainty and chaos. So those are my words of wisdom today. So if you are standing in the fire right now, I want to remind you to trust yourself, to trust the timing, and to trust the process. Until next time, have a beautiful, beautiful day. Thank you so much for your heart and attention and listening to Lead with Love. You can always get the links and resources mentioned in each episode over at leadwithlovepodcast.com so that you can build a sustainable business and live a creative life on your terms. If this message, Leading with Love, resonates with you and you want to take a stand for remembering that there are humans with beating hearts behind the numbers, I would love for you to subscribe so you never miss an episode and leave an honest review. It would mean the world to me, and it also helps more people spread more love in the world, which we really, really need. I also love hearing from you. So as you're listening, take a screenshot, share your favorite takeaway, and tag me on Instagram and Facebook at Jada Selner. I really appreciate you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.